What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Twilight Imperium Junkies podcast. You got Rand.
And this is Henry.
And today we are recapping our Alliance Tournament that just wrapped up with the championship game a couple of weeks ago.
In a stunning conclusion.
So we're going to walk through the events of the first 3 games and the championship games, talk about the teams, talk about the spice, talk about what cool Alliance shenanigans we got to see. It's truly been a fun few weeks here with the TI Junkies.
Yeah, we were so excited to put together more Alliance play, and I'm glad we got to do that and see just like more combos, more shenanigans, more weird interaction between TI mechanics.
More amazing team names.
Oh yeah, you gotta love the team names.
It's all about the team spirit.
I'm partial to the tennis boys.
We all love the tennis boys. So let's start from the very top. Game 1 of the Alliance Tournament.
In Game 1, we had the featured junkies of Kevin, aka Dragothaxon, and Paul, aka Polonius. Team Pew Pew Politics playing Sardak and Yin, an iconic combo.
So iconic.
Team Trash Cannot, that was Weaver and Walt, playing Argent and Nalu. And last but certainly not least, we had Team Saucy Campanelle, which was Bells and Banner Spear. Never forget the Stooge Master of last year's Stooge for the Throne tournament, playing Arbrek and Titans. I mean, first of all, just these team combos. I love Sardak Yin. I've played Sardak Yin. I was super pumped to see that. Arbrek Titans. Ooh, that Titans commander just feels made for Arbrek. And vice versa. Nalu and Argent is also cool to see just because Nalu paired with any faction that has a little more mobility on average right out the gate is exciting to me as well.
Yeah, and we actually got to see that synergy in action round 1, where the Nalu agent is what granted their ally Argent the custodian's point.
Yeah, Argent snagged trade, so they would have the money. And then with Nalu Zoo, it's game over. It's game over for any other aspiring custodians out there.
We got to see Arborek and Titans go, obviously PDS heavy, new Megan heavy, with the double activations and the scan linking each other's planets and all these fun shenanigans.
I was really happy to see that the draft still resulted in some team combos that people might have just picked if they had their choice of every faction in the game. Like, there was a lot of synergy at the table.
Right, which, since we brought up the draft, let's talk about what factions got banned real quick, Henry.
Yes, the 6 factions that were banned were Mahakt, Nazroka, Nomad, Kalaris, Sar, and Winu.
So those were the no-goes from the 18 that the table had to start with.
Yeah, I mean, you see just some, good factions in there. You also see, Nomad's Alliance is pretty iconic in this mode. You don't want to risk Nomad and Yin coming after you and just slinging those flagships left and right. Kalaris was an interesting ban to me, though I think I understand the concern a little more now that I'm in an Alliance game where Kalaris and Yssaril are teamed up together. Which means Yssaril will just be able to not only stall, but then also string together crazy action card chains. And then Mahakt, come on, none of us like Mahakt, right? We've established that. We all hate the Mahakt, ban the Mahakt every time. And I think we have to land on what happened after the draft, because we went into the map build, and Titans, played by Banner Spear, ended up with just about the worst slice anyone's ever seen.
Of all time.
Ever
in TI. There were 0 planets adjacent to their home system, a couple of wormholes, and a couple of supernovas right there. Luckily, they had Titans to pick from their bag, so they were able to get some planets round 1 with 2 movement. But wow, that was an amazing map build to watch, because we were just like, okay, no way it gets worse from here, and it just kept getting worse and worse. But that did not stop them, because Team Saucy Campanelli were the winners of Game 1. Congratulations to Banner Spear and Bells.
Banner Spear immediately used that Titan's mobility to their advantage, stretching out beyond their slice, wrapping around that supernova. And, it just goes to show, you can't count yourself out based on your slice,
You
folks.
can work around any map build.
You can work around any map. It helps if you have 2 movement out the gate.
For sure.
But you can do it.
But don't forget also, if you end up with this kind of slice, it's also a deterrent for people who are trying to give you the Malachi Crunch or come to your home system, because it's just the barren wasteland out there, so it's the give and take of the map.
If you got nothing to give, they got nothing to take.
Exactly. Some other fun shenanigans in this game. The Yin Sardak Gamma indoctrination combo is always a slap in the face to any ground combat you're participating in.
Sardak managed to pick up 7 planets round 1 because they took Warfare and start with that commander unlocked.
And they actually held Mechatol for a good portion of the game, but once Arbrek and Titans finally got their hands on it, that was key in setting them up for their win on their first turn of round 6.
Yeah, they managed to snag Dark in the Skies and then pop that Imperial.
For a 4-point swing for the win.
All right, let's move into game 2.
So this is where we saw the tennis boys, Henry and Nathan, as Sardak and Arborek, another great ground combo. We had Team Oedipus Rex and the Mofos, Eleanor Beardsley and Affinati as Empyrean and Nazaroka, exploring for days. And finally we had Team Mongoose, Carnal and Big and Huge as Hakan and Yisarl.
And yet again, I was super happy with the team combos that emerged in this game.
Absolutely. Let's talk about who got banned in this draft. Of the 18 presented to the table were Jolnar, Titans, Mentak, Sar, and Kalaris.
Another Kalaris ban, another Sar ban. People are afraid of these factions. I knew they were afraid of Sar, but people being afraid of Kalaris is surprising to me. And then the team combos. I mean, Sardak again. Sardak is just one of the most iconic Alliance factions, I think. It's always fun to see them paired with a ground force. I think Arborek was a little bit of a swing for Nate and I, but we wanted the combo just because neither Nate nor I are like huge Arborek mains. Then Empyrean and NRA, just explorers for days. You got Empyrean who can scoop up all those DET tokes, can shoot any unknown fragments over to NRA as needed. Between exploring the planets and exploring the skies, you're going to get a lot of value.
A lot of candy, a lot of value.
A lot of candy. And then Hakan Yisarl.
Absolutely unhinged combo.
Unhinged is the right word. Like, obviously, these are two strong factions. With the specific ability of Yisarl to accumulate tons of action cards and Hakan's ability to trade action cards means you got two players that have basically an endless pool of action cards to draw on. Whatever Hakan needs, they can get from Yisarl. Whatever Hakan draws that Yisarl might want to use, Yisarl can grab.
To make things worse, this team was the Dark Pact holder, and Hakan was getting all their commodities washed through their Yisarl ally, which was triggering like 4 to 5 uses of Dark Pact at least per round, with agents included, not mentioning any like explores or bonus refreshes they'd come across. So these players had piles of trade goods that were heavier than you and me combined, Henry.
From round 1, right out the gate. Yeah, definitely one of my thoughts after the game was like, Nate and I should have done more work to stop that money printing press from being in overdrive from the first moment of the game. I noticed a trend throughout this game was that Nate and I as the tennis boys and Team Oedipus Rex as Affinati and Eleanor Beardsley would do our little moves for the round, and then we would all pass, and then the round would truly begin for Team Mongoose after Yisarl had been able to stall, and then they could just take care of all their biz at their leisure with their pockets full of money.
Point block where they need, point grab where they need. It was an incredible sight to see, honestly, and it went to show that money does buy victory because Team Mongoose were the winners of Game 2.
Congrats to Carnal and Big and Huge. Where the tennis boys lacked in money, they managed to make up for in racking up some Imperial points.
And Team Spirit.
And Team Spirit, thank you. And then one more little highlight for me as a player in this game was when NRA managed to take Hakan's home system, and then because their teammate Empyrean had Diplo, with how our tournament's Alliance rule set played out, Empyrean was able to pop Diplo and lock down the Hakan home.
That is a really fun example of how Alliance shenanigans can come into play in a game of TI in a manner that you just don't see in singles.
It was a fun game. It was a marathon of a game. There was fatigue involved, but you all know that when the fatigue sets in, that's when Nate and I come alive. We're nocturnal. GG's to everyone.
And finally we had Game 3, my game. I was on Team Spice and Slice with Taba, my arch frenemy. If you haven't seen him wreck board states before, check out the Pakistan episode of TI Junkies.
Yeah, you guys played Ghosts of Creus and Clan of Sar.
We played against the Kiwi Junkies, Big Al and Sharpie, Hunter, who we saw in the New Zealand episodes of TI Junkies.
Yeah, they were playing Extra and Empyrean this game.
And finally we had Team Aoshi, King of Mist, and Anjin.
Playing Argent and Soul.
So let's talk about the bans real quick.
Yeah, so in this game, the bans were Mahakt, Nazroka, the Nomad, Nalu, Titans, and Arborek.
A lot of repeats here. A lot of repeats. So our team, Spice and Slice, actually made a huge decision when we picked our faction combo, in which we actually passed on Joel Nar, even though I think they have maybe the best commander for Alliance mode. And this is because we really wanted to do some Ghost SAR movement shenanigans. It sounded fun, and that's a classic Alliance mode thing to do. Go for the fun.
I love you guys picking that combo because it is putting together two factions that have so many options throughout the board with their movement abilities.
But we didn't even end up using a lot of those. IFF didn't even come into play until round 5. Game ended and I hadn't even popped my hero. And I got the Malachi Crunch early on, so I didn't really have much to get places. But that makes it sound like I had a horrible game, right?
That is what it sounds like.
It's not true. Spice and Slice were the winners of this game.
Yeah.
Congrats to us.
Getting Junkies into the final. Now, speaking of you getting the Malachi Crunch early game, Rand, I think it's safe to say that Big Al and Sharpie emerged as the antagonists of this one very early into the game. There was all sorts of hosing, trying to get paid to vote how they were going to anyway, like classic villain stuff like that.
Oh yeah, there was also super villain stuff, like a round 1, rift your cruiser into the Creus Gate just to block my custodian's move.
Yeah, that was very early Spice. And not only did it stop you from getting custodians, it kind of hamstrung you because it meant you weren't able to go and pick up your slice after that.
I'm a ghost. I don't have a slice.
Even though the upshot was that your teammate still took custodians, it did sort of sub-optimize the round you guys had planned out for yourselves. But, Rand, I want to say that the antagonist behavior didn't start with that Delta Gate block. It started in the map build itself. I don't know if you clocked it, but Sharpie was trying to negotiate a different tile placement and muttering about how they had an asteroid field in their hand. They didn't have an asteroid field. They had Corman. They just wanted Corman next to themselves instead of someone else.
Wow, that is saucy. I mean, the way those two were playing, I'm not surprised to hear this, Henry.
Sharpie was like a little devil on Al's shoulder. And I actually think it enabled Big Al's inner capacity to be a hoser, because Big Al is normally a very friendly and gregarious player at every table.
At least that's what Big Al wants you to think.
That's very true. And, I mean, this villainhood really culminated in Sharpie's Soul Hero bait later in the game.
Yeah, so at a critical turning point, Sharpie suggests to the Soul Player engine to pop their hero in order to take Sharpie's home.
Because they needed their flagship in a home for the 2-pointer.
And engine goes ahead and does that, and unfortunately gets hit with Nullification Field.
It was brutal.
So that was a big hose and baiting of the hero, and one could say those relations were permanently soured, which allowed Team Spice and Slice to cruise through to the end of the game without real heavy opposition.
I think that is absolutely true. I think if you're going to pull a sleazy move like that, you got to be ready to have totally burned that bridge.
Absolutely. Something interesting about this game was a deal proposed by the Kiwi Junkies, which was a double support swap where each team gave both supports to one player from the other team. And at the time I was a little bit hesitant about this, but they were letting us have an Imperial pick in addition to it, in which case that seemed worth it to me, and I think that's what helped get our points where they needed to be so we could win the game.
Yeah, the double support is an interesting approach in Alliance mode. I think the logic behind it is that you can just pile the supports onto who you think is going to be the 14-point player.
And the real thing is it kind of made it more of a two-horse race between our team and their team, and that may have been an ultimate detriment to the Kiwi Junkies because Team Aoshi had less to fight for getting towards that end game state, and maybe had the points been more balanced out and the supports been more evenly distributed, the game would have went another round or two, giving everyone a more equal shot. But it is a valid strategy because ultimately the Kiwi Junkies were right there on the verge of winning themselves. It was just a matter of us having locked down Mechatol and no one having taken it from us the entire game, which seems to be a theme of these tournament games recently, where if Mechatol is not changing hands, it is likely that those rooted on them will be the winners of the game, especially if those people are the ones who started with Mechatol.
The double support play did serve the Kiwi Junkies because I was super tense as a viewer and a streamer in round 6 because Extra took Imperial and was at 9 points with 3 unscored secrets in hand. So the math was there for them to get to 14, and their teammate was on track to get to 10, and the table didn't seem to be super concerned about it. So I was very paranoid on everyone's behalf that the Kiwi Junkies would actually just sneak a win without anyone realizing that it was happening, especially when Stripey scored a 2-pointer mid-round.
And it was absolutely possible for them. I think luck of the draw on those secrets must have been real shoddy for Team Kiwi Junkies.
Yeah, that's also the round that Seoul ended up sending one of their big fleets into Extra Slice, which made things, I think, a little more complicated for them. But once Extra passed, it became clear that the Mechatol control, the speaker position, was with Team Slice and Spice. And round 7 was very quick.
It was a super fun match, and honestly, I loved being the bad cop to Taba's good cop. Usually Taba is the antagonist of our games together and will come after my home system because he always draws Dark in the Skies when we are neighbors.
And goes for it round 1 or 2.
But this game, I was giving people the Malachi Crunch, and I was trying to make some enemies, and I was trying to break some deals and squeeze some trade goods, and he was trying to keep me from burning too many bridges, and that was a really fun dynamic, I think.
Taba would be open to deals with other people, and then Rand would just be like, nope, Taba, we don't need to do that. We don't need to wash them. We don't need to give them money. We don't need to do any of that.
Don't wash them. Don't wash them.
And yeah, I mean, congrats to you guys for this win. It was definitely a comeback. I remember it looked bleak at one point when I looked over and the two of you had like 4 points total, whereas the other teams were pushing like 8 or 9 points. I saw like no SAR tokens on the public objectives. But you know, Alliance mode is a long game, folks, and there's always a chance, especially like Rand mentioned earlier, if you emerge as the Mechatol team, having 2 players ready to prioritize speaker position for whoever it makes the most sense to grab Imperial means that it's just as easier to pick up those bonus points than if you're in a 6-player singles game stuck at 5th or 6th pick, because you're just never going to be able to grab Imperial or Politics to set up for those swingy plays that you need without an ally.
Absolutely. And now, let's talk about the championship game.
The championship game!
Alright, so for our championship game, we had Saucy Campanelle, Bells and Bannerspear playing as Winu and Soul. Team Mongoose, Big and Huge and Carnal, were playing as Nomad and Cabal. Spice and Slice, me and Taba, were playing as Titans and Necro. Yummy. So as is destined, Winu took Custodians in this game, and they hunkered down with their Soul buddy, starting a real good Schmeckatol ball. They also had Hope's End, so they were able to place an extra mech on Mechatol when taking it, so they had 2 PDS, 1 Space Dock, and I mean, I was happy for the win, yeah, let's be real. But then, Carnal grabs Imperial, and as early as round 2, we see a massive combat on Mechatol. And as we've seen from the previous Alliance games, we know Mechatol control is critical to crossing that finish line. From there, Team Mongoose took the lead, and they kind of just, managed to consistently stay ahead of the rest of the table. So round 4 comes around finally, and Team Mongoose finally decide to vacate out of Mechatol. While Necro was the Imperial holder, Winu at this point did have an unlocked hero. So Winu and Soul co-activate, go in again with a bunch of stuff, and they get parlayed. Oof. So this is a point where it starts looking more rough for Team Saucy Campanelle. That's when Taba and I saw the opportunity. All their ground forces were in space because of the parlay, and so we decided to go in, sweep it up, and get that Imperial point. And finally, when the last objective flipped, control 3 attachments, it was looking pretty dire for everyone except Team Mongoose. Nomad had Imperial, and Cabal had all their attachments ready, and they actually went for 5 attachments, because 3, easy, child's play. They scooped up DMZ, they grabbed one from others. It was a wild time. The 2-pointer was locked down, and Team Mongoose win the game and are crowned Alliance royalty. Whoa! This might have been the fastest Alliance game in TI history. I don't know, it's definitely the fastest in my personal history that I've seen or partook in. But the game, including the draft, was over in under 7 hours. So kudos to the players for their both efficient and top-notch gameplay in this Alliance tournament. This was such a fun event to put on. We will definitely be back next year. Maybe a bigger version of it, we'll see. But in the meantime, let me hint you in on what's coming up in the TI Junkies gaming universe. We are actually excited to announce that our next online TI event is going to be a league a longer form competitive environment. While our initial plan was to roll right into this after the Alliance Tournament, Thunder's Edge got announced, so we are going to put a pin in that until we are able to play with the expansion. Now, unlike our previous events, we are going to keep this one strictly for our Patreon members. So if you're currently a member of the Patreon, hop onto the Discord to find out where you can follow League updates. And if you're not a member, but interested in the League, stay tuned so that we can keep you posted on when official signups begin so you can look into if it's still something you want to do. That being said, this week, another TI Junkies episode from the Vault is coming out, and it's going to be our only ever in-person League game. The Junkies a few years ago had tried to get our own league going, and the scheduling never worked out for how we wanted to break it down, so we only filmed this one lone game. It was a fun game though, so check it out. As you guys saw last week, there was a different episode from the Vault that dropped. Really old TI Junkies games that we are trying to release before Thunder's Edge comes out. So expect at least one more from the Vault after the League. Well, thanks again for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the Alliance Tournament extraordinaire, and cheers to more TI, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Twilight Imperium Junkies podcast.
If you like what we do and want to support the show, check out our Patreon, where amongst other things, you can vote on topics for future episodes.
Keep up with the TI Junkies series by subscribing on YouTube.
Until next time, keep stooging, or maybe don't.
Unless you're my stooge.